So my video will be about blackface and a situation that happened at my high school where a white girl posted a picture of herself online using a black charcoal face mask, and then she used an emoji of a black person as her caption. And obviously this was very offensive and many people called her out. So in the next clip, my friend, who is a person of color, will talk about how she felt as a person of color attending that school.
And to be honest, I never really saw my school as a safe space for people of color because it was a predominantly white school, but it never really affected me until I saw people that I called friends were saying all these insensitive things and not really trying to understand both sides of the situation.
So after the picture was posted, it obviously blew up online. Many students got involved, and I was really surprised at how many white students were angry at the fact that a person of color was offended. And this reminded me of DiAngelo's White Fragility because even a small amount of racial stress became intolerable to them. And like when a person of color talks about their racial perspectives, or like when a white person is receiving feedback, their actions have a racist intent on someone else, they suddenly become very, very defensive. So as a result, there was an open forum where many students kind of talked about the issues that they faced as people of color at school. This relates to George Lipsitz' reading of the white spatial imaginary and how it functions as a central mechanism for skewing opportunities for Black people, and how the United States has systematically oppressed Black people. This is like really hard to swallow for some white people because they just didn't want to believe that this was the reality that they lived in. Furthermore, there was a committee at school who basically created a space for Black people to openly discuss their problems and openly discuss their issues with the school. And it was all Black. Like, you had to be a person of color in order to join. And a lot of white students were angry about this as well because in this white space, most student orgs and most clubs were predominantly white. So this reminded me of the Elijah Anderson reading where whenever they see like a Black person or like a person of color entering a space that is typically white, they try to figure out what they're doing or like what is their intent in being there, because it just looks like they don't belong. In the next clip, I'll have my friend talk about blackface and his opinion on it.
Blackface still negatively impacts public perception of Black people. Like, caricatures and stereotypes still impact pop culture, and it's caused mass destruction on the perception of an entire race of people. So when it's done today, it's strengthening that distorted perception.
So I think the open forum was really great for a lot of different reasons. One being people were actually educated on what blackface was and like where it came from. I remember someone saying that according to the National Museum of African American History, blackface came from hundreds of years ago, where white people who were working but very, very poor needed a way to kind of express their views on how they were part of the majority, but also like not part of the norm. So they would like ridicule and mock Black people and like put on blackface paint in shows to kind of like mock their struggles as a race. I also feel like it also allowed for people to kind of talk about their negative feelings in a not so negative way, which is kind of related to the Anna Anakin video where she talks about how negative feelings don't always have to be negative. We wouldn't want a Black person to kind of dismiss their feelings of when they're offended or if they're hurt by something, because racial issues do need to be addressed, and it's important that we do address them correctly. Next, I want to talk about some modern day examples of blackface, specifically in the fashion industry. The first example being when white models are hired to model traditional African clothing. They put on a ton of bronzer, a ton of dark makeup, and essentially just it makes no sense because you should want to hire a African American woman to model traditional African clothing. Another example would be Prada came out with this small little trinket thing. It's completely black and it has white eyes and very round red lips. Another example is Gucci coming up with two items of clothing that were specifically very, very offensive. The first one being a completely black sweater, long sleeve, with a turtleneck that pulled up to right here, and it had black lips and an opening for your mouth. There was also another sweater designed with a little neck piece right here that symbolized a noose. And obviously these two items of clothing, of course, are going to be blackface. And although the fashion industry can claim ignorance, they can claim that, oh, we're not racist, like this is blackface, and like the racial intent is very, very clear. I also wanted to talk about Childish Gambino's music video, This Is America, and how it related to some of the discussion topics that we talked about in class. The end scene was specifically powerful to me because it's him running into a dark hallway, but it's white shadows continuing to chase him, which kind of symbolizes the underlying racial issues that people of color face today and how they really can't escape it. In conclusion, I want to say that blackface allows for a white society that has already systematically mistreated and dehumanized Black people to continue to mock them and to reinforce the idea that African Americans are inferior. It also reinforces the idea that Black people are appropriate targets for ridicule and mockery, and it just basically reminds us of the stereotypes and all the other racial issues that we've discussed in class, like racial profiling and racialization of space. Thank you.